Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler. On this 27th day of March, we're coming right into the Sweet 16. Got the Mad New Yorker backstage. Got to ask him his thoughts on the tournament up to this point. Also get a World Series prediction in. Today is opening day for everybody in the Major League Baseball era, starting today. And listen, I did not get a chance to talk about it yesterday, but I think a lot of George Foreman for many reasons. Get his thoughts on that as well. And, of course, the Mad New Yorker. Got to get his thoughts on the new New York Giant, Russell Wilson. So stand by, folks. We'll take our first and only break, and we will be back here quickly because we got a lot to cover here on the Real Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to Sports, that is Sports with an S, another S, Scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty then, let's go ahead and bring up the Mad New Yorker here. Crowd there, good crowd tonight. Good to see you, man. See you got the Yankee hat, although it's a little camouflage. I think that's a Yankee hat, but it looks like it's in some bushes there. Let me ask you this. This has been a topic the last few days. Welcome to the program, by the way.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, brother. Yeah. Hey, with all these mid-majors, lack of mid-majors coming into the Sweet 16, is this an NIL with the transfer portal running the college basketball game? What's your opinion on that? That's been a lot of talk. Or is it good that there's more familiarity with the teams that are coming into Sweet 16? My argument was the ratings are up the highest since 1993, since last year. Chris Webber blew that game against North Carolina over 30 years ago. I love it, but want to get your opinion. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so the NIL has had an effect on all college sports.
Yes.
To be honest with you, it's not just this tournament. We saw it last year also on the in the football, towards the end of the new year, last year and this year, beginning of new year, with all these bowl games and how some of these schools, were affected by this NIL and the deals that go on left and right with some of these college athletes. So it was bound to happen in basketball, and it did. And it's like, I guess, look, it's not as crazy the NIL deals as they've been talking and speculating about coaching deals like left and right before the tournament started. Some of these coaches were moving on with some of these teams. So it's like a hand-in-hand type of deal. It's a business situation for now for everybody, instead of it being about loyalty and, trying to finish out where you started. So I feel this: if you're one of those top-end schools that can do it and get it, and take advantage of it, then do it. If you don't win, then you tried and you tried and it didn't work out your way. If you're a mid-major, what was the possibility of you getting even further if you added 2 more players on your team? Like, the best thing that the mid-major can do right now is just hope that when they play these teams that they compete and they get better, so that when they do get to the dance, they have an ability to be, to try to stay in the game. It's hard for whatever team even the mid majors in the past, you saw that there were Cinderella teams, but you didn't see them go that much further. You know, like Dwayne Wade's Marquette team, Stephen Curry's Davidson team, Jameer from the what team was that with Jameer that he was playing on St. Joe's team? Jameer Nelson, St. Joe's team. Like these teams were great, but for those conferences, but when you came to the dance, you just didn't have enough depth anyways before the NIL. So now you have NIL and it's coming in and it's rearing its ugly head, and you see teams like Drake and you saw those teams, it's like you can only get so far. Even St. John's, had they had a 3-point shooter and a player on the bench that could handle the ball, and they could have gone further. So it's reared its head in different ways, but it's
so you like me, you seem like you like the fact that it's more familiarity coming in. I'm really looking forward to this, man, coming up. These next few guys. I know there's some games going on now, but you know what I'm saying. This weekend,
right, we can't be blind to the fact that there's always been some kind of advantages from the bigger conferences, the top 5 conferences, and
right.
So to be a mid major and be like, oh well, this NIL is not helping. Like it's never helped. You being in a mid major has never helped. And the most and best thing you can do is go out there, play the best basketball, and represent your school. So I don't. These arguments are coming up about NIL. They would have been different types of arguments about other things too. So it just I feel like it's the same issues, just different name to it. So
yeah. Do you see any kind of budge in the NBA? They're seeing this rating spike. They were outrated by Caitlin Clark last year at the NBA and her run. Now, of course, college has got a tournament here. Do you see possibly Adam Silver getting with the owners and saying maybe we need to raise this age limit up a little bit and keep these kids in college? They've got NIL, they've got transfer. And for the marketing standpoint, to get audience to follow these players off into the NBA. I mentioned in 1993, I followed Chris Webber when he was drafted first initially by the Golden State Warriors. I followed him when he went on to Sacramento. That was during his prime years there. Can you imagine Cooper Flagg 2 more years? This would be like a Christian Laettner type of resentment that would come up towards Duke, as good as he looks right now.
But there was players
great for marketing and ratings to transfer, not to mention the developmental aspect of it.
I mean, one of the biggest players that they talked about recently that everybody calls a bust, which I don't think he's a bust because he's always been a good player and actually an even better person, is Morrison. Morrison came out of Gonzaga, at the top end of his, age limit, and he didn't really do well in the NBA as far as because of the injury, and then he wasn't given the time or and really didn't fit in styles that he should have played in anyway. So every person, every athlete, every basketball player is going to be different. I don't feel like if you hold on to a player later, it's going to help his NBA career. What will help the NBA is if some of these coaches, some of these recycled guys, like a Tom Thibodeau, like some of these guys that come out and just are trying to play a game that doesn't fit the time, the era, or the team that they have. Like those things hurt the NBA more than per se having younger guys come in trying to do things. Because what happens is that you're forcing not just players to be trying to work in the system, but you're taking them out of their element, which was they came out of college all ready to play. They came, with the mindset, and then you just turn that off. This is how Mr. Thibodeau is going to play basketball, and it has nothing to do with the way you learn how to play basketball or with the.
I thought you were against developmental leagues.
I don't know. I'm not. What I think is like this. This is what I think. It's like every national team in every sport in the United States should have developmental leagues. And not in the top league should be the professional league, and the best player should be in that league. I've always said, and I've always stated, and also these leagues should be half the time. There should be 2 NBA seasons. There should be 2 NHL seasons. There should be 2 Major League Baseball seasons. Like, cut the time in half and give these guys opportunity to play and more upper chances of winning. I just dislike we're developing this guy, we're developing that guy. Nobody look at the end of the day. I don't want to see development. I want to see basketball at its highest, played at its highest, and at its most competitive form and rate. If it's a 16-year, if it's an 18-year-old on the basketball court among if it's a child among men and he's creating a big hoopla like a LeBron James, or if it's a guy who's came out like a Grant Hill, coming out and do it doesn't matter. At the end, it doesn't matter. I want to see these guys performing at a high rate and being highly competitive, and I want to see good basketball. Like, just because you went to school for 1 year, 2 years, or you only went to high school, that doesn't mean anything. Every player is different, and even for example, guys like Kobe Bryant and Garnett, they made huge impacts for their team coming out. Did they win championships right away? No. Did Garnett win a championship? How long did it take him? It took him a long time. But was that because he came out of high school? No, it was because he was a terrible team. Like, you know what I'm saying? So like a terrible team. So it's even like Kobe Bryant got lucky, but then he was able to.
But what if he was on a terrible team and he had a kid that can help him the next year? You know what I'm saying? Rather than a 21 or 22-year-old versus a guy 18 that they're still babysitting, the guy's homesick. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, but the what ifs will always come up because we're always thinking about all these like situations and scenarios. The reality is, if it happens and a person's lucky to get drafted and they're playing, if they become a good player, fine. If they don't become a good player, it's not because he didn't go 2 or 3 years in college. That's not fair to say either, right?
Well, there's talent limitations on certain players. Yes, there is that.
I mean,
but when you got more smarter players, polished players coming out, I think you're going to have more teams look like Boston and just really crisp like Boston, rather than teams that look like
you think Boston,
a lot of one-on-one basketball.
From our perspective in watching basketball, you think Boston is a crisp team? Boston throws up like, what is it, averaging like 40?
I don't like all the threes, but I like
they throw up threes. So that's like you can't be like,
you gotta love that all the assists they get too. I mean,
look, I think the biggest issue that the NBA has is the fact that they're pushing somebody, they're giving high value to players too fast. And when these players don't perform at peak performances and don't have the best of years as maybe their rookie season or the second year or whatever, and then what happens is the teams have overcommitted monies and they can't build depth and they can't build a spirit of core and things needed for a team to work out. Again, basketball is a team sport. The NBA makes it right now as if it's an individual sport because of the branding and the marketability of players. We can't just be throwing out ideas that they're not a little bit of truth to. I feel like the coaching and the way that some of these
there's too much player empowerment. That's why.
Yeah, well, some of these
you got. I was just talking yesterday with Jason Patterson about. I'm so glad Dan Hurley did not take that Laker job.
He wasn't never into that.
It's whatever LeBron wants, you know.
Right.
It's
ridiculous. And that's like that's kind of like one situation about it. But then a player right now that we saw go to Golden State and moving from a situation that was, people are like, well, he caused that situation in Miami. I was like, did he cause that situation in Miami?
Jimmy Butler. Yeah.
Jimmy Butler, like, was he? Look, we all know who Jimmy Butler is. We know his game. We know what he's about. We know how old he is now. He's not a bad player. If you have a certain style, if you have a certain like type of directive when you're playing with these guys and you tell them to do things, and you're taking the creativity or the availability of being able to create shots from a person, you already know his game. How is it Jimmy Butler's fault that Miami wasn't performing at a high level? Plus, you gave him a contract that overpaid him for his skills anyways, and then you did the same thing with your star there. So you're handcuffed anyway. So it's not really Jimmy Butler's seriously paid, and that that team was struggling because they didn't have enough depth, right? like these are things that's the reason why the NBA is hurting right now. They're overextended contracts. Some of these players can't play for the amount that they can pay for due to some injuries, due to certain things. So, as a fan, it's not my business. I don't care what players are getting paid. What I care about is when I pay my ticket and I go see these players play. Yeah. If they're not on the bench, why am I paying my ticket? And why is this team not winning? This is the point, right? Like,
All right. Well, it is what it is, man. Agree to disagree. I think they should go to college more. I think they should come out older, more poised, more coachable. But I also think they ought to have, non-guaranteed contracts in there and not have guys like LeBron running your league. But that's, beggars can't be choosers. What do you think about Rick Pitino? Was that more of a good story last week than a good team in St. John's? What happened to them, man? Like you said, they couldn't shoot the ball at all.
Right. No, the situation, and I pretty much said that was a good team. I'm not sure if they would make it to the finals. And
you didn't have them in your Final Four, did you?
No, I didn't. I just think that again, we talk about have at least have 8 to 9 players deep. A lot of the players they had were deep, but they were fast. They played fast. They played defense all over the place, but they didn't have any 3-point shooting and any sharp shooters. And
I think he's paused up there. He is. We've had delays here. I don't know what it is. There you are. Okay, got it paused up a little bit, brother.
Yeah. So they had. Let me see something. They had all these opportunities to be in the mix of things, and what happened was that they weren't able to come through. And listen, the Arkansas, like Calipari gave them all the opportunity to shoot threes and to be like, in the game, and then they just couldn't follow through. So that's those shots didn't fall. It would have been a different game if they did. But it's just the way that's basketball, man. That's what you want to see too. So, I'm upset that they didn't go further. That's because it's the whole New York thing. I wanted to see them at least go, makes a little bit more damage, make some noise. But he did a hell of a job. Like this wasn't a team that was on the same level 2 years ago when he's, it's a building process, and I'm sure next year, I hope he stays with it because he can always change his mind. He's a little bit older, so like,
to say the least.
Yeah, so that they get a couple guys in there that can shoot, and then replace the guys that are leaving and go back at it again. And he's the right person. Pitino's the right person for the job. So
I think so too.
And I
think they might have been a little too overhyped, but.
Ooh,
and again, Pitino, you buy into for him, but it's at the end of the day, you still got to have the horses. And man, I mean, to miss that many shots, I mean, even he said it's like I hate for us to go out like that, but sometimes it's just a talent thing,
If they went out trying to dunk or trying to just try to force the ball inside, if they went down doing that, that would have been that's a different type of feeling than if you went going out losing on wide open shots.
Oh, I hate teams that do that,
So, but credit to Calipari and Arkansas for doing what they did. That was a smart.
Yeah, Calipari. Let me ask you this: big win over Kansas last week, and then he had the big win over St. John's, the higher seed. I want to say they played Texas Tech. A lot of people picking Texas Tech. They're also the higher seed. Is Calipari, Calipari's background, coached at UConn or UMass going back to 96, beat by this Pitino team, that Kentucky team. But he had a great team led by Marcus Camby, Derrick Rose, Memphis, not big powerhouse teams like Kentucky. Was Calipari more of an underdog coach? Is he better at this with jobs like this rather than at Kentucky? I mean, he was losing to god-awful I mean, he was really getting maybe he just kind of needed to change the scenery. But what's your thoughts about that? Is he really just an underdog coach, man?
Yeah, my take on Calipari is that he's a coach's coach. Like he finds ways to motivate these young men to play at peak levels, peak times when it's important, and he can find what and how to light up these kids and turn them into big dogs and men.
But what happened at the end of Kentucky? What do you think happened there?
They
wanted to get rid of him. That's why he took this job.
Yeah,
you know?
I just think it got to a place where he was complacent in the fact where he wasn't making the moves like other coaches.
Things got stale for you think?
Because the NIL and the people in Lexington, they want you to win no matter. Even before the NIL, you expect championships, and they were getting 1 or 2 players instead of getting 4 or 5 players, and so and then that's not deep enough to win a championship, right? So I think it was part of recruiting, not winning, and then just him being a little bit complacent. Not to say that he didn't do his job, but you're not deep enough, and you need to be deeper to win in the SEC, and it wasn't happening for him. So I think it's better for him to go. Plus, I don't know this, but maybe he was coming up on some violation here or there. So that he, so he's in a new place. He's doing things. He's using the system to his advantage. He's always been a man who used the NCAA to his advantage, the rules and regulations anyway. So, and I think that's one of the smartest things about him. Like, he plays.
Do they beat Texas Tech? I think Texas Tech will beat them, but who knows?
I don't think that they're deep enough. I feel like what they've been through is a learning curve right now, and both with the new coach and with the new system that they're trying to do. And I think that these guys are 2 or 3 players short of trying to beat Texas Tech. Now, it's going to be a good game, for sure. So, yeah.
Okay, Dan Hurley goes off. Says he got robbed by the refs. That got caught on video at the end. I told you last week, last Wednesday, I said, that's going to be a good game, man.
Yeah.
Turns out to be a nail biter.
Yeah.
Was Florida simply just a better team and Hurley was having sour grapes? Or do you think maybe Florida did get the calls in that game?
No, I mean, even with getting the calls, Florida played their guys made their shots. Yeah. Connecticut's guys missed a few shots, made some terrible calls and shots that they were taken. So, and that wasn't a coaching thing. That was a player thing. They're both top stars in Connecticut. Went out of their way to try to carry the team, but just did it in a way that put them in the negative, right? Shooting those extra 3 or 4 shots where they could have passed it, both of them, not and then Florida's team, they were making better passes and they made shots and they went in. So, you got to score in this game. And I still trying to understand why some of these kids don't attack the basket more, but if you want to shoot the ball, if you want to shoot the 3, you're going to die by the 3 if you don't make it. So,
I thought Florida. I knew Florida was a better team. They were the 1 seed for a reason.
Right.
And Connecticut, they are who I thought they were. They'd come out and fight their rear ends off. They didn't quite have the talent this year. I love the fact, like I was talking about earlier, that Dan Hurley's still at Connecticut and not with the LA Lakers. I like his passion. As long as you don't condescend and be a Greg Popovich towards the reporters or put your hands on players. Don't be a Bob Knight. I'm perfectly okay with somebody actually caring about winning and losing. Really good stuff in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Connecticut in this conference that they're in and the competitive that they didn't restack the team. And I'm not sure what their alumni. I don't know if they didn't have alumni support or any NIL extra help, but and a couple injuries here and there. But they should have had more players, I think. They lost a few players from the championship run. So
Yeah.
Um,
Well, you can't win the national championship every year, no matter
right,
what.
no, but you got to restack. You got to come back and show people that you was a championship. You've had a championship before. So, and they didn't do that with this squad. And I'm not saying that it was a terrible squad. I'm just saying that it was not as deep and as talented as it usually.
Well, they drew the toughest, the hottest team in the country.
Right, but again, you was a championship for a reason, and that those colors didn't shine through this year. So hopefully they get back on back on a horse and try to get back on track and get some players in there. It's tough, man. I know it's tough, man. Like if you got an offer to play in Connecticut, but somebody and then there's offers for you to play at Cal or Stanford or like even someplace like Oregon, Nike Town, like Connecticut don't seem like such a
well, it's a name brand school.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll get the money.
Yeah, but
I don't think it was a fluke he won 2 national championships. I think it's just a competitive league. I like the fact that they're keeping more players in college basketball. This thing is blown up like I thought I would, with the fact that you've got more players spread out that they're staying in. They're not going to semi-pro. They're trying to be on the bench somewhere or in the G League. They're staying in college. And this is the best tournament I've seen in a while, And Connecticut, hey, you got competition, man. North Carolina's not there this year,
right.
They're a powerhouse,
Yeah, I didn't. The way that North Carolina came in this year, on the back end of the tournament, trying to slide in, and I'm not saying Hubert Davis did a terrible job, but they have tried. Again, they're getting 5-star players, but they're not getting enough of them. So, and again,
the guard play doesn't seem to be there for them. Yeah,
and you can't just be like, I'm going to take everybody who's a top 5 player, like because there's not that many at the top anyway. So.
Yeah. Carlos is kind of paused.
It's a coaching thing.
Go ahead. There you go. Okay. You there?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure for UNC it's totally a coaching thing. Although their alumni would want to say that he needs to be careful.
I thought he's done well. I mean, I think they got to the national championship game a few years ago, didn't they?
Yeah. So it's a tough situation. Being on one of those top 5 conferences and one of those teams and not being able to be 6-7 deep. So,
yeah. Kansas didn't get to the Sweet 16 this year. You know what? How about SEC really living up to the hype? 7 teams, the most in history to make it to the Sweet 16. What's your thoughts on that? Is pretty much like we said before, hey, we knew they were tough.
Yeah. The money, where the money spent is true. Within all sports, the SEC is spending in the billions in NIL money, and all teams considered universities and sports, not just football and basketball, like in all sports. Yeah. So, they're getting the talent here to play the sport, and it's becoming highly competitive, and not everybody's going to win, but the teams that are winning are the ones that are getting an opportunity to get to the dance, and now they're at the dance. So I wish all those teams luck. And right now it is the best conference because it's the conference that spend the most in athletics.
Yeah. So. They care more. We care more down here. I didn't think it's good at football or basketball, but they haven't won a championship yet. But we'll see.
Well, you're looking at some of the 3 biggest schools that spend money on NIL monies is University of Texas, Texas A&M, and LSU. So those are just 3. I'm just naming 3 schools out of the rest that are on the top high end of spending top millions of dollars on athletes in the sports. So
and none of them are in the Sweet 16. That's
right. So
the other schools like Tennessee's got a high NIL for basketball, I've heard.
Right. So the alumni,
you see they look pretty sharp there. Switching gears here, Russell Wilson's a Giant. I was reading their ESPN bet. They're still listed as 3.5 over and under wins. What's your thoughts about Wilson with Jameis Winston now in the quarterback room?
I think it's just reaching right now for the Giants to try to put together a team that can win and be consistent. They still have issues with the O-line that I think need to be fixed. They should add another running back. I don't trust them as a winning team in the East yet. So Vegas sometimes hits it on the spot, right? And when I said these things last season, people thought I was nuts, but
I thought that there's a chance that could happen because Daniel Jones seemed to get hurt all the time.
Right, and you like the division itself is very competitive. Well, you'd have to be more competitive than what the team was able to show and put out there. So you got to face Washington, which is on the up. You have to face the Eagles, who are the best, and you got to face Dallas, who want to be in the mix.
We may be going downhill.
Yeah, but they still want to be in the mix. So they play them twice, so they're going to get one game at least.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know.
So
I don't know.
I
feel like people are kind of this almost feels like they're underselling at 3.5. I mean, that's if they get I'm looking at the running back depth chart. Yeah, you're right. Tyrone Tracy Jr. I don't even know who that is. Devin Singletary. I know Singletary. I do like Wardell Robinson. Of course, Malik Neighbors set the world on fire as a rookie there. But, their defense there, they added Javon Holland. They've got Brian Burns still, Dexter Lawrence on that defensive line. And, of course, Kayvon Thibodeau. What if they decided to say not draft Schroeder Sanders? Although there's some reports that maybe he's still considered to be the favorite to go number 3 overall. What if they take a Travis Hunter instead and put him at corner and made him some at receiver? That's a pretty good secondary for them, considering the fact of what they've done to their secondary by adding players to the draft and, of course, guys like that safety there,
Yeah, and
defense is looking good.
Rob, you can get as creative as possible, but like balance is a true nature of the game right now in age, right? So the average age right now with the Giants is, now that they moved some players along, they're down under the 29 range, but they should be.
They're pretty young.
Yeah, they got to be a little bit closer to 27. The Jets right now are close to 27. That's the prime age as a team, not like per player, but so if the Giants can get there, it'll help them because that means that they have players that can come back from injury quicker because they're younger. They got guys that are fast, so because they use, so those things matter. People trying to cherry pick, be like, okay, we put this person in, we put that person in. That's not football, right? Football isn't one on paper, man. So I've always been a Russ guy. I think Russ can win you 5 games himself. He can carry the team depending on the schedule.
So you're saying they're going to go over at 3.5, and you're right, Chad. It is a more level playing field in the SEC. I want to not ignore Chad's comment.
No, Chad, thanks for chiming in. But I feel like I think the Giants will be they're not going to win more than 6 or 7 games. I don't think so.
Okay, that's same here.
and I think the Jets.
Now, what some guys may pop for the Giants? Maybe the division gets ate up with injuries. You never know.
Yeah, you never know. And then at the end of
would you want a Travis Hunter on that team, or would you rather have a locker room that had Schroeder Sanders?
I would prefer to see this guy sell the pick and build this depth.
But what if there's no takers?
Takers. You don't think a person wants? You don't think there's teams that want a quarterback?
I don't think the phone rings like that. Now it does ring, but I don't think it rings to the fact that people think, now maybe for Tennessee because they got that one pick, But
I just don't want. I'm seeing the Giants reaching and just trying to stay popular by getting players is a terrible way to go. I don't like it. I never liked that. Build a team up.
So you don't like what if I'm just saying if they can't sell that pick, and it's not always takers, What if somebody don't offer you a good package? They say, "Well, you take
they don't pick the right players anyways when they do have the picks." So
yeah,
You know, like if they
So
get
you're saying that Sheehan and what's his McCall it Duvall, they're goners anyways, no matter
right.
what.
I've always thought they had a small, they had a small opportunity here. Anyways, if they pick a Dart or something like that, then it's down from there. I don't, if they pick Hunter, I think that'll be an okay pick because he's an unbelievable athlete.
You could play him two ways, man.
Right, but
add that depth to that. Put him opposite of Neighbors.
Yeah, and how is he going to get? Is he the one getting catch? Who's the number one? Neighbors is still your number one. He's your number two. So you could possibly have
bring him in for series, not necessarily one package, but a few series in the first quarter. Maybe use him late in the second half.
Yeah, so you have Russell Wilson throwing him the ball and under 30 yards. And if you have Jameis Winston throwing you the ball over 30 yards, more likely to get intercepted.
Now if they play Jameis Winston, they could get the number one pick at 26.
Yeah, it's just tough to see where they're going to go, what their game plan is. I don't know. I just feel like that was one of those, let's try to get a name.
So you like the signing or you don't? I think it'll give a little bit of hope to fan base bringing in a Russell Wilson.
I wanted him 3 seasons ago. I don't want him because he's 3 seasons older. He's been through 3 seasons. He's been through 3 seasons of sacks and hits. So I mean, I guess it's okay. I'm not a Russell Wilson fan, but I don't want to have a type of quarterback who has a lot of potential, but an O-line that just has them underneath a blanket of defenders, man. That's one of the things. I know it sounds pessimistic, but this is one of the things for me. It's like, you brought this guy in. Like, this guy is a Super Bowl champion. He wants to get back to the promised land. How are you going to protect him? What are you doing to protect him?
Yeah, I don't know. I know that Thomas is good. We'll see how some of these other offensive linemen that they've picked up fare out for them. If they can run the ball,
Robert,
keep the defense off the field, they have a good defense. They're building a good defense.
If Russell Wilson went to
just kind of keep time of possession. Excuse me.
If Russell Wilson went to Tennessee, he would have a better shot with the O-line that they built up, plus with the O-line guru over there. Apparently, that's what these.
Well, Tennessee has better players, player for player, right now.
Right, so that would have been a better situation for him. So that way, if he can achieve performing at his peak level, then there's an opportunity of him actually winning the 5 to 6 games that he can win on his own back. Like, he can really get 5 games. But with being at the Giants, I don't think he can win 5 games on his own because it's not the same situation.
So, everything is about that center guard.
Yeah, like
the net line.
And trust me, I know he can't run like he used to run, and I know he's not as dangerous as he used to be. But look, like, I have hope that they'll play good games. But I don't have any hope that we will stay away from the top 5 picks next season. Like,
well, that's what Vegas is saying. So switching gears, man, it's opening day. What do you think? I know there's favorites and everything, and you'll be surprised at who Vegas has a lot of websites in the Major League Baseball American League to represent. Take one guess at who do you think the American League is going to have in the World Series that was picked by MLB.com, ESPN, and the New York Post. Who do you think that they picked in the American League to represent the American League side in the World Series?
I'm going to say this, and they sound like the early 90s situation that the Yankees had. Probably the Texas Rangers. Is that what you're hoping to hear?
No, I would have thought maybe the Texas Rangers. I would have thought maybe the Detroit Tigers. Remember how hot they got at the end of the season last year, or somebody like that. Yes. but it is the Boston Red Sox.
Oh yeah, that was another team. Yeah, yeah.
Red Sox. They
I'm
signed. You're more advanced on baseball than I am. I'm trying to get back slowly. Is Alex Bergen really that big of a signing for them? And of course, Garrett Crockett and Walker Buehler have also been added to this Red Sox team, and everybody is going back towards the Red Sox now. Carlos just dropped, folks. Jane Campbell, we'll see you there. Schroeder Sandals is used to no O-line. That's true. That's true, Chad. To comment on your thing while Carlos comes back, hopefully he'll come back. Mel Kiper with ESPN still has Schroeder Sanders as his top quarterback. Now, I've watched Urban Meyer. I've listened to him from his talks with NFL executives. Urban Meyer now works with Fox. That's the former Ohio State, Florida coach here. I've heard him say that Schroeder Sanders, here he comes. All right.
I don't know.
Anyways, Urban Meyer is basically saying Schroeder Sanders was he has problems, according to the scouts he talks to, throwing in tight windows. That's the answer. Kind of chime in on what Chad was saying about an earlier conversation. Now, Boston Red Sox. Do you believe the media hype on them because they haven't even made the play? I mean, that's a big jump, right?
Right. So they're looking at these players like Devers to come back as playing better. That was a big pickup when they some of the guys that they had this year during free agency with Buehler. And so those guys are, and then the pitching staff, they have high hopes. So, I mean, it's not. I feel like that's a little bit of crazy. I think they'll be in the playoffs. I don't think that they'd be at the high end of the playoffs, though. I just think that they'll barely make the playoffs, wild card wise.
Yeah.
But that's
so. Who would you pick in the American League? The Yankees, Garrett Cole. I mean, that Tommy John. I mean,
right.
That's tough, man.
I think in the playoffs it'll be like the Yankees will be in, but they're not going in.
Okay.
Maybe like second or third place, and then followed by a team like maybe Boston. So that'd be like good to see a rivalry in the playoffs. I think that's going to happen. But I don't know. I think Cleveland's not. People are not talking about Cleveland, and Cleveland's one of those teams that has been chomping at the bit. They've made a lot of. They made a lot of changes, and they picked up a few pitchers and stuff like. So I feel like they're going to be in the mix on the American League side. It's a lot of time in baseball for things to kind of happen.
It really depends on who gets hot late.
And it depends on the injuries, and then the final trades that are made during the trade deadline. So
after the deadline, but if you had to pick it today, who's in your World Series then?
I would like to see myself as a fan. I would like to see the Cleveland Guardians versus the New York Mets. That's what I would like to see as a fan. And I know those teams will be in the mix, but.
Who do you think it's going to be, though?
That's what
that's who you're actually picking?
Yeah, and I think that the Mets can handle the Dodgers this year. I think that the Dodgers I think they usually have injury issues.
Okay.
And they might.
So Soto's going to put them over the top.
With the Mets, I think it's not. I think having Soto on a team helps. I feel like both the Yankees and the Mets will be in the mix of baseball playoffs because of their young players that they've been able to keep in the minors that are coming up this year, taking the place of some of these guys that have gotten injured, especially on the Yankee side. They made some moves pitching wise. They're hoping to get some of these guys to pitch their contracts, and just be performing right. At the end of the day, this is baseball, and
who wins it? By the way, Mets
and Cleveland. If it's Mets and Cleveland, I feel like the Mets can win it in
First time since '86. I would love to see the Mets
in 5, but
or Braves.
yeah, but that's the thing. It's like, I have more hopes of New York baseball being in the playoffs than I do of New York football being in the playoffs.
Total opposite. Yeah.
And
I'm
there's
right
years
there with you.
There's years where it's been flippant, right? It was the other way around, right? You would be NFL playoffs, no baseball.
Yeah.
Playoffs. So,
well, the Jets got to the AFC Championship game some years back, and then between those years, the Giants ended up winning in 2011. So, I'd love to see the Mets, but you know what? I think last year I picked the Mariners to get there.
I want to do a take. I want to do a take, though. I do want to do a take.
Go ahead.
My take as this year is that the youngsters of the Mets and the Yankees, as well as the guys from the other teams, the young guys you're going to see a lot of younger players this year that you don't recognize or their names you're not going to know much of are going to be performing at a high level, and you're going to see a transition.
For the Mets and the Yankees?
Mets and Yankees, as well as the rest of the league. You're going to see guys like Trout, Harper, Betts. Those guys might get injured. Those guys might not be as performing as much. Yeah. And you're going to see these newer guys, these younger guys carry teams on like I would say teams like the Athletics, teams like the Mets, the Yankees, Tampa Bay, and even Toronto have a few guys. So Baltimore. So you're going to see a lot of younger guys who not used to being on the face of baseball. It's going to change, and it's this time. I'm really excited about it because it's opening day, opening weekend, and everybody has this expectation. But what we're going to see is these young guys get opportunities and make a name for themselves. And this year is going to be, I feel like, the most amount of guys to go out there and try to be good. So that's
a good point, because that's what the writers are saying. Those players I named are older players, but they're saying the Boston's prospects are going to pop off.
Yeah.
And of course the Braves. I mean, Chad's saying the Braves and the Mets.
I mean,
the Braves are, you got Sale, Strider's supposed to be back, Acuna. I mean, you got your players there. But listen, I said this last year. Don't know a lot, but just reading up on the Mariners. The Mariners had the best rotation ERA in Major League Baseball last year. I got this off MLB. Their top starters, this Castillo guy, Gastado, whatever, right-handed pitcher, Logan Gilbert, right-handed. They're saying that they still have one of the best overall depth staff, and they're young and up and coming. Maybe they make a play, get another bat there. Maybe they make a play for Vlad Guerrero Jr. Because remember, he's going to possibly be traded and at the trade deadline. That's a big play. Who gets him at the right time to put them over the top? That's something we don't know because we're talking here in March 27th, not in July. So I think it'll probably be but then that being said, the Dodgers, I know they added another Japanese pitcher to their rotation. And Ohtani is going to be able to pitch this year and help out with depth as well. Man, it looks like it's going to be the Dodgers over the Mariners. That's my prediction. But all those media outlets I just named, they all said Dodgers over Boston.
I
mean, are the Dodgers coming there turning into the Yankees West now?
I don't
early 2000s.
Not yet. Like the one thing though is, you mentioned the Braves. I feel like in the East, the Braves and the Phillies are gonna knock each other. Like one of them is gonna knock one out, and then the Mets will come in and will play whoever wins that series, or even they would play in the East. They wouldn't have to play them if the Yankees. I mean, if the Dodgers are getting, to that. If you build out the seeding. I think the Dodgers will eventually play the Phillies or the Braves. So I feel like they'll knock it out, and then the Mets will have
It's very competitive.
Yeah.
This is the most I can't remember another time. I know the Mariners are bad, but the NL East, those three teams you just mentioned, man, there's a lot of star power there with the Braves, the Phillies, And
Yeah, and
the Mets are really strong this year.
And we again on paper,
even though they lost today.
Yeah, on paper we're looking at all this, and but you have guys that are balling and they play well. You know, like the Mets ended up getting the first round pick from the Yankees, and Torrance, the catcher, he did pretty decent last year to help the Mets a little bit. And then this year he's going to be playing more because of the injury to the Francisco to the catcher. So and then again, there's a lot of young guys out there getting opportunities. Vientos is going to go back for the Mets, going to be out there. I feel like they might trade McNeil and move up some players because they got Acuna's brother on the team too. So there's so much talent. Robert,
it seems like it's all in the National League this year.
I mean, So
I even mentioned the Padres, how good they are.
Oh, you know? Listen, Cincinnati has a nice young team. The Pirates have some of the best.
They never spend the money though,
but they don't. Again, they're not deep enough. But they're gonna have some great pitching going on over there. The Pirates have great young pitching. The Cardinals have a few players here and there. They've
always had a good farm system. You know, St. Louis.
I feel like
hey, man, got to get your thoughts here. We're at 51 minutes in. George Foreman passed away a few days ago. You know, I haven't got a chance to talk about this yesterday. One of the most exciting fights I've ever seen. It was before our time. I watched it on ESPN Classic 2 or 3 times. You can watch it on YouTube. It's Foreman and Ali, 1975. The rope-a-dope fight. Right. Foreman, very much one of the most feared fighters. Remember, he beat the crap out of Joe Frazier, knocked him down 4 or 5 times, and Ali pulled off one of the great upsets of all time. And then very angry guy. There's a movie made about him called Big George Foreman just a few years ago. I think I might go back and watch that. I remember him for that, but mainly in our age group, remember him as the oldest guy, 45, to win the championship, knocking out Michael Moore, 1994, 45 years old. And then, of course, selling that grill, which my friend of mine had it and had a great burger on there one time. And always seemed to be, you know, one of the most angriest guys ever in the 70s, only to be one of the most jolliest guys. And he'll be missed, man. I love George Foreman. What's your thoughts about George Foreman, man?
Yeah, I mean, R.I.P. Prayers to his family, and all the people that he's touched and all the people he's mentored and given hope to. You're talking about a guy who had very little education, but was able to get in between the ropes and show his skills and show his potential. And so much so, feared so much that even Mike Tyson didn't draw a fight with him. And there's speculations about why.
That's interesting, yeah.
But listen, this guy was a very good fighter, but even better person and entrepreneur, because a lot of the things that he was doing with branding and his name is a lot of the things that right now sports, the marketing industries has taken and kind of built off of, you know, especially like, you know, the guys like Jordan and Foreman at that time frame, with them being Black Americans, Black African Americans, they, you know, that's something that a lot of guys now don't realize, that the branding and marketing, those are things that he did. I'm here about the U.S. Open, and there was a year that they were giving out George Foreman grills at the U.S. Open. So like, and marketing,
everybody had one of those grills, didn't they? They were easy, man.
He did what he
small
did.
And portable.
Yeah, and you know, he taught us a few things here and there, and man, it's a true legend. You know, U.S. boxer as well for the Olympics. You know, so hey, like we can only look back so far, like, you know, because he fought before our age. He fought
he was in his prime,
yeah, and he retired in 97 at 47. So yeah, like we didn't see him. That we saw a bigger dude in heavyweight boxing. We didn't see the guy that that he was when he beat up Frazier. And
yeah, but I mean, he gave Ali a beating. But Ali's style was, and I heard Richard Pryor, one of the greatest stand-ups ever, talk about that fight. You know, that he said Frazier would fall down for anybody but Ali, and he was joking about Foreman knocking him down time and time again. And he's like, well, Foreman had a unique style. None. Which one's the referee? I'm going to kill the other mother bleeper. That was the joke, you know. Mm-hmm. And that was that just style where he just goes at you and just hits you with those combos constantly. Right. And Ali saw that, and he's like, I'm going to let this dude punch himself out. And I'm going to rest on this rope while he's it's a great strategy, man. Because Ali was an older fighter at that point. He's like 34 years old. And I want to say Foreman was only like 27 at the time.
And another thing about Foreman, people don't realize, he was honest. He was real. And he in a lot of interviews that he's had, he's always told it. He's like, I never seen those two punches come at me. So he knew he got hit and he fell down, but like that's how fast Muhammad Ali was.
Yeah. It was a great punch too. Right. It was an iconic fight, man.
He said two punches. I'm not, to be sure, I don't think it was two. Maybe it was one, but
that sounds like something Michael Moore said in 94. Because remember, Moore was winning that fight. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I remember.
I mean, he put his guard down, and it was like 10th round, and Foreman's like, okay, I'll take this.
Was that HBO or Showtime?
It was HBO.
Yeah, it was HBO, man. Yeah.
I saw the replay. I heard about it, but I had HBO at the time. My family did, unfortunately. And I thought, man, that's awesome, man. This dude could look kind of chunky. But I always thought, you said uneducated. If you just listen to him break down the fights as a announcer,
sportscaster,
I mean, as a what do you call it, commentator, whatever, he seemed very educated to me. He seemed sharp as a and maybe he didn't have the college degree.
Right.
Man, he's really formidable, and like you said, jolly, and just I never thought that he was winging it. I always thought he did his homework when he was calling these fights for HBO. We forget about the fact that he did that too. He was up there. He's one of my favorite color guys. He's kind of like maybe a Pat Summerall or John Madden if you're doing football.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I love that voice.
Yeah, he's more like Madden. He kept it simple. And it was, all the things that he talked about while boxing and all the little tricks that they do, and he just tell how it was, and he'd be like, don't chew on that mouthpiece when you get punched, those kind of small things that look, he did his thing, and I feel like us as people watching sports and commentating on sports, like we enjoyed it. We remember it because it was memorable. It's memorable because of what he and how he was able to put out boxing to us while we were watching it, and those kind of things, they're always missed too, because we would watch boxing now. I'd watch boxing, I'd be like, man, I wish they had some other guys, commentating,
doing the color guys. Yeah.
So I was like,
but he's one of the voices that I like to hear. Right. He's such an honest guy. He's not shy about his fate. You could tell the transformation in him. He's a very angry guy in the 70s. I watched a documentary on that fight, and he was angry. He had his German Shepherd with him all the time, and you wouldn't recognize that's like two different people.
Right. Yeah.
From 90s George Foreman, the man from the 70s guy. He said it was the best thing that ever happened to him. Finding God and everything. Chad says Rangers, Astros. I think if one of those teams could make a play at the trade deadline, going back to that, like a Vlad Guerrero, they've both been in the World Series in the last 5 years. I couldn't see why they couldn't make it.
I just think those teams are top heavy on veterans, and
there's a lot of vets, especially on the Astros.
Yeah, when you're on top heavy on veterans, you're more likely to get injuries, and there's less depth on your bench to come up and save you from falling. So save your grace from falling. So you got to be careful when you have these teams and how you build these teams. And so I feel like the Rangers are like the late 80s, the Yankees late 80s. They got all these names on the team and they're hoping for a championship run, but they just can't get there. And Astros right now, that's been a few years now that they've been, even though they've been in the mix, they've been struggling. And so I don't know. Those two guys, one of them will make how about this? One of them will make the playoffs. One of them won't.
I don't know. I think they both could make it. A wild card and division winner, but we'll see. I'm curious about this Boston team by reading all this hype, and
I laugh.
I'm curious to see how many regular season games this Dodger team's going to win. They're going to win a lot.
I dislike Boston so much, but I kind of like giggle and stuff. But I'm just like, because they're one injury short of like all those hopes and dreams like crashing. Mm. They're like one of those teams that are like one injury short of just. There's not that many, but they're one of them. I
picked up 4 young men from Boston a couple of weeks ago, and they all sounded like miniatures Tyson Furies. And we got some prospects. We got some prospects, man. We got a lot of prospects. We're gonna be good this year. Y'all gonna be good. I said, we're gonna be. And they're just really excited. Young guys, 22, and kind of remind us of our energy back in 04. I was so happy. Nothing against you, man, but I was so happy Boston won that series.
God, I was so
coming back 03 like that, dude.
Yeah, every time you talked, I was like, "Oh, this is trash." Garbage coming out of this guy's mouth.
I mean, I love Big Poppy, and I just love that team.
Yeah, man. You did. Yeah, oh God.
Oh, I hated the Yankees. I still hate the Yankees. Not as much now because Dodgers are kind of doing their thing, but.
You rode a train like it was 1800s, bro.
Thank you, Chad. You got anything you need to plug? We're getting here towards the end. Any final last words there? Yeah,
I was in the middle of doing the with the forkball, and the injury started hitting the Yankees, and so I had to take a pause and
had your own what the fork moment.
Yeah, and I've been doing some school things. I've been kind of busy, so I'm gonna try to do some shows here in the next few days, and then try to catch up with and just get ready for this season to come up. And I'm really excited, man. Everybody, keep your ear on the ground. Look up some of these young prospects. A lot of teams,
they were so funny, man.
Yeah, these teams got good prospects. All of these teams got good.
I
had
4 of these guys. I dropped them off, ironically, in front of that Dave Portnoy's
nice.
Barstool Sports place we got downtown. Nice. Nashville's a whole different world, man. If you
I've been there. I go a lot. I do. And
we should go downtown sometime and
have a drink. We're gonna ride that cart that with all those females in their bachelor parties.
Yeah, it's something else. And folks, next week when I come back on, I'll have this guy's helped recruit some big time players from Missouri. 5-star guys. I'm going to ask him about. His name is Sean Pollard. I picked him up in Uber last week or a couple of weeks ago during the SEC tournament, and he's going to come on the program Wednesday, hopefully 30 minutes past the hour. Make sure and tune in, Carlos. It'll be a good one. You and Chad. Sean Pollard here. This guy knows Darrell Green Beckham. Remember him?
Yeah.
5-star player. We were talking about him. He played a big hand in his recruitment. Sheldon Richardson, does that ring a bell? Former Jet, 5-star player. He's the go-between guy. So, I start talking to anybody about sports. And, I'm always asking people come on the program. So, I had met Jenny Paul through Uber, and I met this guy, Sean Pollard. Pretty interesting guy. So, hopefully, he'll be able to make it in Wednesday, folks, next week. So, of course, me and you will hopefully be back next Thursday. Hey, who wins Kentucky, Tennessee, man? Who wins that game tomorrow night?
I'm going Tennessee.
Okay, me too. Although Kentucky did beat them twice.
Yeah.
In the regular season, I think Tennessee's playing better right now.
Yeah, I think they'll be all right. They need to just attack the basket, forget about shooting threes, and unless they get a really good shot and they
get to that free throw line, baby.
Just get in there. Because Kentucky's not that deep, so they'll find.
Bad New Yorker, everybody. Appreciate you, buddy. All right, everybody. I'll be back on here again live next Wednesday, but check out replays. I got some good replays set up for the next few days. I'll be back here live. Thanks again, Chad, Jane, everybody. I will see you next time here on The Real Sports.